pulls in the hallway. They're trying to keep Christina awake, like I said, she's trying to fall asleep. They keep asking us the same questions, like, what's your name, what's your major, like just trying to keep me talking. Kept mispronouncing her name, pissing me off. But it was doing its job of keeping us engaged. I finally said, okay, we gotta get you out of here. Can you get up? I was like, I can't get up. So they put a cop on each leg, a cop on each arm, down the hallway, down the stairs, and out the front door. And there was a little grassy kind of hill right in front of the door. They laid me and Christina down on the ground. And actually that was the last day that it snowed in Blacksburg in 2007. It was kind of lightly snowing. And so they cut my shirt off, they cut my jeans off. I'm laying there in the grass and my underwear freezing. Screaming for a blanket, somebody to get something because it was so cold. And they finally got one on me. I heard them talk about trying to get a helicopter to land, but the weather was so bad they couldn't do that. So ultimately they pulled an ambulance over the curb, up the hill, put me in the ambulance, and put Christina in a squad car. And as I got in, there was another kid in there, Jamal, who was holding his arm. I'd never met him before. And boom, we go off to the hospital. By the time we were en route, the hospital closest to campus, Montgomery Regional, was already full. So we had to go 45 minutes down the road, which we probably did in about 20, to the next hospital. And I'm glad that actually I didn't go to Montgomery Regional because I heard that place was a zoo. And by the time, it was on that route to the hospital, probably 20 minutes after it all started, I realized I was going to be alive, I was going to be okay. That's when the numbness kind of faded and the pain kicked in. Wow. And like I said, they were driving probably 120 miles an hour trying to get us there as quick as they can. And like I was bouncing on the gurney table, cursing at the driver to slow down. They got us there, put me in the ER. Jamal goes in another room, and people just all around me. I just remember all these doctors all around me. And I remember thinking like I was going to be okay. I knew I was going to be all right. I think I asked the doctor, like, is everybody necessary? Is all this necessary? And they, as soon as they start, like, they check everything, make sure nothing's hitting internal organs, internal bleeding, things like that. Major nerve centers. Fortunately for me, none of that happened. I didn't have any major organs hit, any major nerve centers hit. I did have a broken femur that I would have to operate the next day, but on could come the morphine. And they also, right before this, they said, we need to call your mom. My parents had just moved to Richmond, Virginia, a place I didn't really know, didn't know the phone number at home yet. My cell phone was left in the room, so they did some Google searching, made it work, and all of a sudden there's a phone with my mom. I pick it up, and she said, Colin, what'd you do? It's the first thing my mom said. And I was like, Mom, it's okay, I've been shot. Just get down here as soon as you can. And like 4 hours, along my dad and my sister were right there. I spent ultimately 6 days in the hospital. Then was discharged. There were, like I said, 17 people in that room with me that morning, including the teacher, and I was one of 7 people who are alive today. 32 people in total were killed. About another 25 or 20 students were injured from gunshots. Another 4 or 5 were injured from jumping out of the second story. People were from the other side of the classroom. The first 2 gunshots we learned, the first series of gunshots were in the engineering class and then the German class, and then it was our French class. And that was, I like to say there were 3 major decisions that I got to make after the shooting and during the recovery that helped me get to where I am today. I like to share this with other young people. The first one is that moment you're getting discharged from the hospital. Parents are going to want to take you home. I said my parents moved to Richmond, it wasn't my home. I said, look, I can't go there, I don't know anybody there, I'm going to lose my mind, sitting on the couch. I said, I'm going to go back to my apartment off campus. And first I was like, you don't know you're going. And then I think they thought about it, and they're like, all right, your dad's going to stay with you, but you can go back to campus. And looking back, that was the best decision I could have made. I went back to Virginia Tech, back to Blacksburg, and I got better in my apartment with all my friends surrounding me. And every person I ever met in school, every cute girl I ever met in school came to visit me, which was awesome. And my friends from overseas, when I grew up high school in Egypt, flew in, and it was just incredible. And it all, I needed that for me to be with my friends. And my friends, I think, needed to see, someone who's going to be okay. Somebody who's going to be all right from this. And I think it was helpful for them as well. And I got out of the hospital, my friends were like, dude, what do you remember? like? How did you feel? What were the nurses like? All the questions like guys would ask each other, you know. And I wasn't talking to like a shrink or like a psychologist or whatever. I was just talking to my friends, and I was getting the story. I was getting it off my chest early, not keeping it in. I learned later that people, I shouldn't say learned, but I talked to a journalist later on who said he interviewed people who survived all sorts of traumatic situations 10, 20 years down the road. He said the people who can talk about it seem to be better off than people who can't. So my advice to you would be tell your story. And I didn't even know that, but I was telling the story at the time to the easiest people to it. I wasn't telling it to a room full of people I'd never met before. I wasn't telling it to a reporter. I was telling it to my buddies. And it was getting it off. You know, as long as you talk to your dog, it's more important that you're talking rather than who you're talking to. Then school ended, physical therapy started. I had an internship lined up in Madagascar, of all places. And telling the physical therapist, look, I still want to do this. I got to get on a plane in 6 weeks. I left the thing in a wheelchair, left the hospital wheelchair. I was like, I need to get onto a cane before I get on this plane. And sure enough, good set a goal. A week before the plane, I got on a cane and I left America. I left Virginia. I left the place that I talked about this every single day to Fort Dauphin, Madagascar, where no one knew what happened. I was just some dude with a cane. And as much as I thought like this was the biggest thing in the world, it meant nothing to people. And as much as the hardship I thought I was dealing with, like compared to trying to have food on the plate every day, trying to send your kid to a good school, trying to be healthy, like my hardship was nothing compared to that. And it helped to kind of put things in perspective and get out of all the craziness. It was good to be in it early, to be there and deal with it, and it was good to get out of it. I think most people, unfortunately, didn't have that similar experience. Most people left the hospital, went to their homes, and stayed at their homes all day, and then came back to Virginia Tech, and the school resumed in the fall. And so there was a lot of anxiety from them going back to the classroom. You know, for me, I'd already kind of been back. It wasn't as difficult. But the third best thing was going back to Virginia Tech and finishing and graduating. Every student at Virginia Tech went back and got their degree. That's a story that's not often told. Everybody went back. And yeah, it was hard as hell getting back into a classroom and seeing someone burst in the door late or slam the door behind them. Any noise like that, your heart would jump, totally freak out. But at that point, you know, end of your school, most of the people you're in your class with, and you know each other, so there was usually somebody else from the shooting also there, and so when something like that would happen, we just kind of look at each other and acknowledge that nobody else is freaking out, which we are. That's okay. It's part of the process. It's going to be all right. By the end of the year, you know, I think most of us were comfortable again in that situation. And going back there, having to face that was, I think, the third best decision I could have done. You know, anytime something happens to your life that comes out of left field and flips everything upside down, it inflicts massive stress and trauma, you naturally try to find out, why did this happen? How did this happen? These are questions that are just naturally going to come to you. You try to figure that out. And while I was focused on physical recovery, a lot of my parents, a lot of family members who had someone killed that day, that's the immediate question. How did this happen? What did the school know about this? You know, who did what? And they went down that road. And going down that road led to a lot of learning a lot of different things. And I think really about 3 issues that really came to light. Things with school safety, things with mental health, and things with gun policy. Those are kind of the 3 areas that I think were illuminated by a lot of people. The fact that this student was someone that school had known about, was someone that his English teacher asked to be removed from his class, otherwise she was going to transfer schools because of what he was writing. Someone who had been to the counseling center was ultimately stalking girls on campus and had the police call on him and was sent to a mental health facility and evaluated. And at that facility was said that he was not a danger to other people, but he was adjudicated a danger to himself and told to get outpatient therapy, not inpatient therapy. And because he was told to get outpatient therapy, not inpatient therapy, the state of Virginia didn't send that medical record to the background check system we do for gun purchases. So instead of getting the therapy, he was told to get on his own and never followed up with. He bought a Glock 9mm and a Walther 22, a couple hundred rounds, and came on our campus a few months later. Something as simple as like a file transfer could have altered the series of events. I'm saying totally prevented it, but altered that series of events, made it more difficult for those events to happen. It was kind of shocking. And things like, you know, hey, what about that shooting that happened 2 hours earlier in the dormitory? it would have been great to have known about that before I got into my car and drove to campus that day. And sure enough, through lawsuits and legal action, we found out that the school waited about an hour and 45 minutes and sent out the alert to the student body of, hey, there's a shooting on campus, be vigilant, remain indoors, something vague. But, you know, if I had known that, you bet your ass I wouldn't have gone to campus. But when you have that information, you don't share that, it's very difficult for the students to make their own decisions. And now, I think that's been one area that has improved a lot since Virginia Tech is student safety, is campus security, with emergency alerts, with physical security of like not having the door handles that you can chain up, those flush-mounted ones, you can't do that. Threat assessment teams, so students can be identified that come up in different avenues and actually follow through with and make sure that they're actually helping. You know, this has been a big change. I think mental health, unfortunately, is an issue that has been kind of stuck. It's still somewhat, you know, taboo to talk about. Guns was the same way. However, I think gun issues have been knocked loose a little bit over the past few years, particularly after the shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. And it was going down this road, like I said, which is going in these areas. And there were families that immediately got involved with campus security, student safety, families that immediately got involved with mental health. But the gun issue wasn't really being touched and addressed by them. And so yes, you know, the record transfer, like I told you about earlier, was something alarming. But that kind of led to a bigger thing that, you know, we actually don't do background checks on all gun sales in this country, which is something I thought we did, assumed that we made sure that people who buy guns can legally do so. I was kind of shocked learning that there's a good chunk of sales that go totally unchecked. I thought that was pretty alarming, and I saw some families get involved, but it wasn't for me. I tried to graduate and do kind of other kind of local government work. I didn't think advocacy was for me. And then 2 years later, April 3rd, 2009, there was a shooting in the Binghamton, New York Immigration Center, which was almost 2 years my shooting. I had, you know, not looked at any other shooting issues. I had not really done advocacy, looked at the issues. My dad was telling me this stuff over dinner table and, you know, talking with your parents. And just how I flicked on the TV and that story broke.